parents know that they need to start setting healthier limits, right? They know that they can't keep doing everything for their adult child forever. They know that what is happening is not sustainable, it's not good. And they know that at some point, their son or their daughter needs to start taking ownership of their own life. Maybe that's getting a job. Maybe it's contributing financially. Maybe it's helping around the house more. Maybe it's addressing their anxiety, their addiction, their school, or whatever issue is keeping them stuck, right? The parents understand that something has to change. So they try to set a healthy boundary. And we've talked so much about healthy boundaries here. So the parents try to set those limits, and that's where things often start to go sideways. What I specifically want to talk about tonight is what I call the two whys, right? WHY, whys. Because parents begin to set limits and they often hear that word. They hear why. But not all the whys are the same, right? One why is healthy. The other why is what gets parents trapped. I'm going to explain this. See, the first why is a learning why. It's an understanding why. It's a growth why, right? This is when your adult child is genuinely trying to understand what you're saying, what you're doing. And they might ask, why do you think this is important? Right? Why are you making this change? Why do you think this is going to help me? And I'm telling you, those are fair questions. Those are conversations worth having because it helps them grow. It helps them understand. It helps them understand how to learn. It helps them understand how to move forward. Right? There is a reason why these limits need to be in place. And sometimes, believe it or not, your adult child hasn't completely caught on to why they need these limits, why they need these boundaries. So when they're legitimately asking, why is this here? Why are we doing this? Why is there this limit thing going on? That is a conversation that is worth engaging in. But then there's the other why. And this is where I see many parents get stuck. They get stuck in arguments. They get stuck in giving in one more time. The second why is not about understanding. It's about them getting their way. It's about changing your mind. It's about finding a loophole. It's about wearing you down. It's about keeping things exactly the way they are. So the question may sound similar on the surface, right? They're both why, but the purpose underneath the why is very different. That's what I want to help you understand, right? Because this is what helps you in those conversations. The conversation goes from something healthy to it starts becoming like, why can't I just keep doing what I was doing? Why is this a problem? Why are you making such a big deal out of this? What if instead I did this? What about this exception? What about that exception? Right? It shifts from this why to excuses and reasoning, and before long, the parents find themselves trapped in either a 2 hour debate uh, or they just give in, right? Because it's not that their child is trying to understand. Their child is trying to get away from the limit, right? They're trying to negotiate their way out of this thing. And many parents don't recognize when the conversation has shifted from understanding to resistance. I see this all the time in my office when I'm talking with families, right? It's a productive conversation, and then this like reality hits with their kid, and then it shifts. And you can tell it goes into an argument of endless explaining and endless loopholes. And I see parents not know how to get out of that. So let me give you an example. This wasn't too long ago. I was talking with some parents, and their adult daughter was being very difficult to deal with. She wasn't working consistently. She was always leaving the house. She was out all night. She was drinking a lot. Let's just put it this way. She was making a lot of bad choices. And the biggest problem the parents were having with all of it is she would take the parents' car and she was spending all the money that she was supposed to give them for her expenses, right? She was spending it while she was out with her friends and doing whatever she was doing. So the parents decided they needed to set a limit, and they set a limit. They said to her, look, starting today, you can only use our vehicles to go to work and other responsibilities. And you need to start paying for your gas, your phone, and part of the car insurance directly, right? These were already things that she was supposed to be giving them money for. So they set a reasonable date for when this was all going to happen. And I want to make a point here, right? It's kind of like a practical suggestion point. I like what the parents did here because it removed the extra step and it took them out of the equation. Their daughter needed to be managing the bills. See, they had it where she was giving them money and they were paying her bills because some of them were combined and all that. But they realized that some of this they could start to separate, right? They could come up with a different way. And that was a skill that she needed, right? She needed to start paying her own bills and doing that process. And of course, it's not all crystal clear. I know how this bill stuff works and how we're bundling all this stuff and all that. But sometimes it's easier just to make that clean cut. You know, here's your bill and here's our bills. So that's what they started moving towards. Here's what happened. At first, their daughter asked why. And honestly, some of those questions were fair. Right? She was saying, why is it all of a sudden we're making all these changes? Right? Why is this so important right now? Um, that started a meaningful conversation. Right? The parents were able to explain, look, we love you. We believe you're capable of doing these things, and we want to see you move towards independence. We don't want to see you stuck doing the same thing for another year. And so for a little while, it was staying productive, right? Their daughter was actually feeling cared for, and she wanted to be independent. She wanted these things too. So, you know, she was jiving with them. They were connecting. They were talking about helping her and how she was going to move forward. But then, right, then reality set in. And this is often where conversations shift, right? Whether it's bad choices, not taking responsibility, some addictive behavior, this is where I see conversations shift. Reality set in. And she realized that she was not going to be able to continue to do everything she was doing before. She was going to have to actually make some changes. That's when the other why showed up. So the questions changed, right? The focus changed, the goal changed. Now it was, why are you trying to control me? Why can't I still do both? Why didn't you have this rule for my brother? What if I promise that I'll work more, right? What if we start this car thing next week, right? And it was just going on and on. So what happened in the conversation? The conversation moved from one of understanding, trying to understand the limit, and it shifted to trying to eliminate the limit. And that's where these parents got trapped, right? That's where a lot of parents get trapped, right? They started explaining and they kept explaining. They kept defending. They kept debating. They kept trying to convince, right? And eventually they got exhausted, right? And that's what happens for so many parents. But I really want to focus in on that convincing thing, because what we want in that moment, what parents want, is for their kid to say, yes, mother, father, I see the wisdom in this. I understand you're trying to help me. I agree completely. This is the most logical thing. It'll be tough, but I see how you're trying to help me and I'm on board. That usually doesn't happen. Not at first. Not at first. So when you're looking for agreement, you're actually putting yourself in a risky position, a powerless position, right? You need your child to say that you're right, and they don't have to do that, right? And so then it becomes about convincing them. That's a big area I see parents uh, get stuck. So the important thing I want you to hear is that once you've explained the boundary, once you've explained the limit, how things are going to go, you don't have to keep proving it, right? You don't have to win the argument. You don't have to answer the same question 20 different ways. At some point, the boundary simply becomes, look, this is the expectation, this is the direction we're moving, this is the limit, right? And then you hold it, right? Of course, you tell them you love them, you care for them, this is how it's going to help them. But at some point, they don't want to hear that. They just want to change the limit. You don't have to participate in that, right? It's fine enough to stick with what you originally said. Then it's about follow through, right? Then it's about your follow through. Um, so, another thing that I want to make, another statement that is really an important thing, right, is the two whys don't always stay separate, right? People move back and forth. Sometimes your child is talking to you and they genuinely want to understand. And then they realize that change is actually going to affect them. And all of a sudden, their fear shows up, their anxiety shows up, their frustration shows up, and they move to the other why, right? They're trying to change the limit. That's normal. It's human, right? And then they might have a moment where they connect with what you're saying. They know it's right. They know what they need to do, and so they get back into the conversation in the good way. Okay, all right, now why do I need to do this? How am I going to do this? And then their anxiety hits again, and then they flip back to the other way. That is very normal. And I want parents to be prepared for that. Don't be surprised when it happens. Don't think you failed because that happens, and don't be confused, right? Recognize it. Recognize that they're struggling to understand. They're struggling to believe in themselves. They're struggling to stay focused, and it's hard making changes, right? So you want to stay connected, but do not abandon the boundary. That's kind of like your limit, right? Is no matter how much they're struggling, we can't back down on the limit. I will say there is room for healthy negotiation. Right? And I know this is tricky. This is why I like you to come to my workshops or get on the email list because we dig deeper in this stuff. But there are times where maybe the limit that you initially set is a little too much, right? Maybe they need more time to figure out the money thing, or maybe whatever it is, you need to take a smaller step. That happens at times. And there's also times where you need to take bigger steps, right? They can take on more than what you thought. That kind of negotiation happens as long as it's moving forward. That's what I say to every parent. That's what I say to every family situation. I said, as long as after the end of this conversation, we're moving forward more than we were, then we're moving in the right direction. Right? We can always figure out too fast, too slow later. Moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. All right. So these boundaries are not punishment, right? We are helping them, right? You are helping them with healthy boundaries. They're a part of helping them take ownership of their life. If you are a parent listening to this, I want to leave you with some encouragement. Main thing, you are not alone, not even close, right? This is a group full of parents trying to figure it out, and there's so many more out there. Almost every parent in this situation struggles with these conversations. And I think all parents do on some level, right? And parents question themselves. And every parent wonders if they're doing the right thing. The goal is not to become hard. The goal is not to become controlling. The goal is not to just win. The goal is to stay loving and to remain firm and clear, and for you to keep trying as parents, to keep trying, keep working at it. Right? It's not about perfection. It's not about saying it exactly right. It's just like your kid, right? They're going to try, they're going to think it's going to work this way. Maybe it doesn't. We want to keep moving forward. Same thing for you, right? Um, so I want you to, I'm trying to help you stay in that place, find that place of remaining firm, being clear, and when your kids are truly asking questions, right? When they're truly trying to understand, they're trying to figure things out, that's good, right? You stay engaged in those conversations. You stop when it's about debating, when it's about when the manipulation begins, right? That's when you back out of the conversation. It can take time to figure the balance out, but you can figure it out. It takes some courage to move forward, but you can do this, right? And that's why I want you to uh, engage in this deeper stuff because I really want to have these conversations uh, to help you move forward. All right, and it really is one of the most loving things you can do. Right? A parent, when they can hold a healthy boundary long enough for growth to happen, right? It seems like it's all about limits and it's about being firm and all that, but it's very loving, right? When you can hold that limit and your children can start to grow and change. And it can happen. I see it happen all the time. All right. Remember, you are not the only one. You are not alone. Thank you for joining me tonight. And one last time, let me say it, get on the mailing list.